Now we come to the final section where we can assess what we've done so far and decide on any changes or additions that we might need to complete the drawing. Very often in this stage there's a lot of work done on increasing contrast and shadows to build the shape. And that's essentially what I'm doing here, using the Payne's grey pencil to build some of these shadows on the head of the Kingfisher. Increasing the contrast like this and building areas of shadow, increasing the tone, really helps to finalise the form of the bird. A rounded edge on the front of that folded wing needs to have a graduated shadow. I can pick out some of the darker sections of the underlying blue plumage between the feathered orange outline of the breast. You can see as I work over this whole final section is really about making random choices, trying to create a more uniform overall end result, which might very well mean applying colour in certain places but not in others, just to successfully finish what we set out to achieve. And this really is one of those times that brings up the age-old question, how do you know when you've finished? It will be possible to carry on making little adjustments like this for an extended period of time, and whether or not a lot of that work would actually be necessary is open to debate. I'm sure there are still times when some of the pictures that I work on I perhaps overwork a bit, take them on a lot further than actually was really needed. But what it boils down to, I suppose, is, are you happy and comfortable with how the drawing appears at any particular stage? And if the answer to that is yes, then there doesn't really seem to be a lot of point in chasing it any further. Gradually, the more drawing you do, the more comfortable you'll get with the idea of what you consider as a finished piece of work. So now I'm just adding random glazes, almost washes of colour with the Peacock blue. Again, I'm working over those secondary feathers where, when they're adjacent to the electric blue on the back, they don't seem quite dark enough. This is in a really important stage, because having established detail over the whole of the picture, it's much easier then to make the decisions you need to make as to what you have to do to complete it. using the Peacock blue on the back, which up until now I hadn't used, just to suggest a little bit of shadow on this bottom section, because where it curves round over the body of the bird, just above the tail, we'll be receiving less illumination than this section further up. So I just put a wash over it to knock it back just a little bit. And I use the Peacock blue just to pick out the odd shadow in between some of these fine feathers on the back. Add a little bit more texture. And also help the paler sections to stand out that little bit more successfully. It occurred to me that having put lots of shadow on the foredge of the wing, deep shadows in the rest of the bird, that actually that part of the head directly above the beak would also need to be a touch darker. More burnt sienna shadow going in the bottom section of the bird's underside. And you can really begin to see that portion of the bird and the branch on which it's sitting are beginning to almost emerge together, same level of dark tone. And I talked earlier about trying to tie your animal or bird subject into your background and having areas of detail, edges of certain parts of the drawing which are almost lost in shadow like that, rather than clearly defined, is a really useful way, again, of suggesting it's part of an overall picture. And having darkened up the bird, we need more tone on the branch as well. Really beginning to make that shadow on the bottom edge more distinct, helping to really give some shape to this lovely piece of decaying and weathered wood. And this whole section really is about going with your instinct and your feeling. If there's an area where you haven't put in much detail and perhaps you think a few more suggestions of the grain of the wood or weather marks on it would be useful, then go in nice and gently, apply some of those. If they work, great. If they don't, either work over them again or use your mounting putty to lift them away and try another option. So looking at this and thinking to myself, that edge looks a little bit too clean. Surely it would have some cracks and breaks in it. So whilst doing the dark shadows with the black pencil, I've also introduced one or two little crack lines to help to break that up a little bit. Bringing some of that colour that I've got on the blender to other parts of the drawing as well. So this brings this particular video section and the drawing as a whole to a close. I hope you feel confident to have a go at this drawing yourself, and don't forget you can return and watch the video as often as you need to while you remain a member. You can post work in progress or ask for help and support or advice on our Facebook page as well.